Hello, workers of the world, and welcome to Good Work, a roundtable discussion about the world of working. Working is a major part of our lives, so we should talk about it. I'm James Mastriani.
I'm Matt Newell.
And I'm Jake Lloyd-Bacon, and we are comedians, writers, performer types, not journalists. So do with that information what you will.
Yeah, take it.
It's been 2 weeks since we have gotten together.
Yeah.
A lot has happened. We had Labor Day. We learned a lot about Labradors.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of chat in the Discord by our good friend and listener Sousa, who we've brought up a few times.
Yeah.
Who somehow worked in every single field that we mentioned of underappreciated jobs.
Yeah.
And chimed in about referee. Oh yeah, I was a referee for small hockey. Like how we talked about major leagues. We didn't even talk about like how teenagers are generally tasked with reffing smaller kids.
Right, yeah.
And how they have to deal with it like it's a job when they're just teenagers and they have like drunk parents screaming at them. It was a hyperactive time in the Discord.
Was this person also a getter-upper? What was that? What was that thing?
A
pea shooter?
Knocker-uppers.
A knocker-upper? Yeah.
No, but it was. We did talk about who gets up the knocker-uppers, remember?
Oh, yeah.
Who watches the Watchmen?
The theory being like these people, since that was their job, they probably went to bed in the morning once everybody was awake.
Oh, shit. They worked
they still
night
get.
shift.
They need a knocker-upper at night. There needs to be a night knocker-upper.
Yeah. You're right. A
For
PM
the graveyard shift.
PM knocker-upper.
This is the circle of life.
You know,
everyone needs someone else to wake them up.
It's a
big circle.
We didn't talk about this before, but it just occurred to me now. What would you contract them for naps as well?
Right.
Or is it just
that's like the equivalent of taking like a charter?
Yeah.
Or like I work naps on freelance.
I work naps on freelance. Naps are my side thing.
I'm moonlight as a nap knocker-upper.
That's so funny.
If you have no idea what the hell you're talking about, you've missed last week's episode. Please go back and listen to it.
Yeah, you're starting here, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
This was just my way of saying, hey, the Discord's a really fun place. You can find a link to it. It's completely free online community.
You got on it, right?
I'm on it now. I've been reading some stuff.
Oh, nice.
I've been looking at it. I'm crawling my way into being more active.
I just don't know what's going on.
I
looked at it and I was like, who's talking here?
Yeah.
Am I talking?
All right, Boomer.
Where am I?
It does make me feel. It makes me feel old as shit.
Nice, Jake.
Yeah.
It's not. Boomer's like 65-year-old people. You fucking moron. Just throwing around terms you don't know what they mean.
I hear it's something. It's from. It's something Australian, right? Anyways. Do you want to dive into some news chatter?
Yeah, let's go to the best paper in the world.
Let's go to the Chief. You're reporting here about farm workers in New York State that I didn't even understand how the headline didn't make sense to me. And so I had to dive in to figure out, because it sounds so absurd. The headline for this article is farm workers could get overtime after 40 hours starting in 10 years.
Oh, whoa.
So just based on that headline, what do you think the scenario currently is for farmers?
I think farmers in 40 hours from now, farmers will get paid for 10 years. That's how I read it.
Hilarious. So apparently if you're a farmer in New York State, you don't get overtime after 40. You have to work 60 plus hours in order to begin getting overtime.
Jesus Christ.
60 hours.
Are you a farmer? To me,
No,
I always
I'm a
thought
podcaster, writer. I talked about it at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah, not a journalist though. Yeah, yeah, you're not a comedian. I can't remember. Do farmers? I always picture the farmer as the owner.
Right. Like,
you know what I mean?
Right.
Like the farmer, but like it's weird to be a farmer.
Well, in fairness,
this
is titled farm workers.
A farm worker.
So maybe that is the distinction.
Okay.
Maybe the farmer is the guy who owns the farm. Like our idea of a farmer
is
in,
Old McDonald
in the overalls and with the
Yeah.
the wheat. I think that is now just like a guy in a suit, hanging out with hanging out on Epstein's Island. I think now that's just.
I feel
think
like
farm workers are actually
So you think all the farmers are pedophiles? You heard it here first.
I did not say that.
E-I-E-I-O.
We need to put an allegedly drop into this episode.
Allegedly.
All farmers were gonna sue until you said allegedly.
Yes, yeah, no, of course. We have to protect.
All
We have to
farmers.
save the hides.
I feel like farmers probably have just kind of like the same sort of hierarchical tiers as other industries. Like I bet you there's like small business owner farmers that are just like, kind of like
Right. And then there's Tyson.
You're
The
exactly
chicken
Yeah.
mogul. And not
Yeah.
Mike. I'm not talking about you, Mike. I got no problem with you, my friend.
It's like so many varying levels, I bet. Yeah.
Right. Well, here's some info from the actual article, which is every line is the information is more insane than the last. Farm workers in New York State will have their overtime thresholds incrementally reduced from 60 hours to 40 hours over a decade, should the Labor Commissioner Roberta Reardon sign off on recommendations by the Farm Laborers Wage Board. In a split vote, which is the best, and over objections from farm owners and their allies. There you have it.
And their allies.
The 3-person panel in January.
Ranch hands.
But wait, again, split vote. The 3-person panel
The 2 to
in
1?
January, I guess so, yeah,
gotta
voted
be.
to lower the 60-hour threshold in 4-hour increments every 2 years, beginning in 2024. This, like, the if this isn't why politics is broken, the best example, I don't know.
Yeah.
We have to wait 2 years before we can start doing a little bit of this thing that we all agree should happen. And then 4 years after then we'll do it one more time.
Yeah. And maybe even wait till then to write the article. Because I don't know, because
Yeah.
what the hell's going on?
What why are we even talking
So-
it's called compromise. And this is a great compromise. Both sides win. It's like King Solomon or whatever.
Both sides are frozen.
Yeah. it's
Yeah.
it's so fucking and that, I mean like our government
Also,
too.
King Solomon, not my king. Hashtag not my king.
It's like our government, our politicians fucking love farmers, like farm owners. Like both parties are constantly bending over backwards.
They're romanticized.
They really
Yeah.
are. Yeah.
Remember that commercial years ago? It was just like hands of a farmer.
Yes.
It was like
I
a Super Bowl
do.
commercial. It was just all these different
It's fucking
hands.
weird.
Yeah, it was crazy. I don't even remember what it was for.
It's
Like
just
what,
like
lotion?
Probably
it's
Bud
just
Light.
promoting agriculture.
Bud Light. Yeah. Fucking Subarus or something.
Like Jergens lotion.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, hear about the hands of the farmer. The farm workers and their advocates welcomed the outcome. Of course, farmers and their allies bemoaned the decision and called the report by which the board based its decision, quote, flawed. Critics of the report included David Fisher, president of the New York Farm Bureau, a volunteer organization who cast the wage board's lone vote against the recommendations.
Oh.
He stated that the report lacked, quote, a full and accurate depiction of the data and testimony gathered over 2 years. It lacked detailed economic data, as well as a dearth of testimony from farmers and farm workers themselves. So it sounds like this person is like, well, we don't know whether or not they actually aren't happy working 60 hours without overtime. Like, we don't have enough data to say whether or not 40 hours is a substantial enough work week to then garnish overtime.
I don't even know what's going on.
I thought
There's too many like variables for it to be even news almost.
Yeah.
Well, I
just-
don't know. I mean, I think the news being that, to me, the news being that, guess what? Farm
it's
workers
crazy.
don't get overtime at 40 hours.
That is
Yeah.
crazy.
That
That should be
is-
the focus and not this
Totally.
this weird. Like in
I guess the story is like,
could get. It's also could get is the high, farm workers could
Well, I think
get
that's
overtime
the idea,
after.
well, I think that's
40
that's
hours
not fair.
starting in 10 years.
I don't think
I'm
that's-
finished now, Jake.
Is that dynamic amtameter? What is that shit called from
Shakespeare.
But I think the idea being that like this thing they voted to pass this thing. It still has to pass.
Right.
They
So that's
voted to
that's
pass it.
Yeah, that's how all of this shit works.
Yes,
Like, this is all this is how
No,
all
I know.
news works because of bureaucracy.
Yeah.
But-
We vote to pass this if it passes.
Yeah. Well, no, and then the idea being that if it does pass, this shit will happen.
Yes.
I think this is news outlets like the Chief they're doing the allegedly because they don't want to say
Yeah.
this is happening.
In
Right.
10 years, though. I mean, what's
Well,
the
in 2 year or in 2024 it begins, and then again
I see.
the limit gets decreased by a few hours every couple years, and then eventually it will be down to 40
Yeah.
in 10 years from now.
Good God.
It's just
So-
absurd. It's also just an absurd way to just do a law.
That's what I'm saying.
You just
Like,
gotta the farm workers just have to last. Their lower backs just need to last another 10
10 years. I mean, the average age of the average life expectancy of a farmer is like 32 or something, right?
All that ham.
Oh, you think they just eat ham?
Yeah.
Oh, the farmer's
bunch of ham.
breakfast, the big,
Yeah. The big. I've seen the farmers slam at Denny's. I know what they're eating.
I know what
Well,
Farmer John's cooking.
in any stage, just to put a little button on this, Jessica Maxwell, who is pro farm worker,
Yeah.
Okay.
said that the timeline to a 40-hour threshold is a long one, but it's obviously heading in the right direction. They go on to dismiss the objections by all of the opponents, saying that the decade-long timeline will give farm owners plenty of opportunity to contend with the overtime requirements, and stating, quote, nothing really justifies putting farm workers in any different category. She said earlier in the week, there's not a lot to complain about here. And yeah, I agree. Like,
Yeah.
this is also just the,
Who's
the
it- yeah, why-
owners just arguing like, well, if we have to pay them overtime for 20 hours more than we were previously, then we're going to go bankrupt.
Right.
I'm going to have to sell my yacht.
Yeah. Never. Meanwhile, just like skyrocketing profits every
Yeah,
industry.
yeah,
every year,
Get the
too.
fuck out of here.
All right, so I got some Starbucks news. We do this once a week because it's
Starbucks.
Starbucks. They're making
They're
news.
the epicenter, man.
Starbucks, these sons of bitches. They added benefits for non-union U.S. workers ahead of Investor Day. So they're giving these. They're giving benefits to all their employees who did not join a union.
Wow.
New York. This is from
Fucking petty.
Fucking
Petty.
piece of shit. Starbucks announced new student loan repayment tools and a savings account program that for all U.S. employees who are not union members. The company said on Monday amid a growing union drive and soaring demand for coffee. This is from Reuters. Did we say how? Was it Reuters? Reuters?
Reuters.
That's what. That's
Reuters.
right. Reuters. They fix your pipes. The move comes ahead of the chain's annual Investor Day on Tuesday, when Wall Street expects it to lay out next year's growth prospects, boosting benefits to non-unionized workers while saying that unionized cafes must first bargain for those same benefits, maybe slowing the pace of union organizing. They're just doing it whatever the fuck they can.
There's
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
at this
nothing
point, it's-
secretive. There's nothing secretive.
and I don't even know if it's saving them money at this point.
Right.
They're just doing it out of
in fact, this is
pure evilness.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, just like
It really is.
Right?
It's petty. It's
just
fucking
petty.
petty. It's a way. It's like a threat wrapped up in like pettiness, wrapped up in.
it's
like,
also like they're spending money to
yeah.
give these benefits.
Yeah.
that's what I mean. They're
Yeah.
like-
And so like it's like, hey, we don't want to spend money on paying everybody more and have
we got all this money here.
Yeah.
but I think there's also a level of like this is like your ex-girlfriend who like dumps or like you break up with and then immediately does all the things you asked her to do.
Did she call you? What the hell's going on here?
This is a good metaphor though, because it is like it does have that petty feeling
Yeah.
of like
of a love
of
scorn.
of scorned love.
Oh
It
yeah, we
does.
bought this fridge together. I'm gonna take the doors.
Exactly.
Oh, what's funny about that is
I feel like
that's
maybe
a
there's
real
some
thing.
information that I'm
that's a real thing. That's a real thing that
Wait.
happened to me.
Wait, all right. We're gonna put a pin in all of this.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You bought a refrigerator with
Mhm.
an ex-lover,
I did.
and
Yeah.
then said lover took the doors off of it when they left,
well, not
or just the freezer. They're like, the freezer's mine. We're gonna split this down the middle. You
Totally.
get the fridge.
totally. That's what she was threatening to do, along with taking the cushions from the couch that we also had purchased together. So she was gonna leave me with a fridge with no doors.
So not a fridge.
Not
anymore.
a fridge.
It will not keep anything cold.
Yeah, and a couch with no cushions.
Not a couch.
Not a couch. It's just.
And also, she doesn't have a fridge or a couch.
She has cushions and 2 doors. So really, it's. I mean,
if she constructs the cushions into a box style form, puts the doors on them, they might not keep things wildly cold,
right?
But it'll at least,
Here's the thing, though. Maybe she's trying to set a precedent where if all
Of ways
couples
to
do
dump
this,
James
if
Mushroom.
all couples do this, then the next person she dates will have half a fridge and a couch also.
And so then you met like
Yeah,
it's
you
like
just
Jenga
find- it
or
is like
not Jenga, Tetris.
Tetris.
It's like Tetris.
That's
yeah.
right.
This is fantastic. It does remind me of how I leave apartments because I am very petty. And if I have had a shitty living experience with like a landlord or an owner, I will take every light bulb from an apartment, including
that's funny.
the light bulb out of the fridge and the oven. Like I am petty.
Those
when it
little
comes-
ones he came in.
Oh yeah. Those really annoying little ones. I like all the lights out of the ceiling fixtures and fans. Any little thing that's an expendable item, I give them nothing.
You don't give a fuck about your security deposit?
They're
I am-
gonna
I am
find a way to take it back anyway.
Painting
Yeah.
and cleaning. I hire cleaners.
Let me tell you, as somebody who has worked for the other side, it doesn't matter. They're going to try to take everything. They're going to take whatever they can.
I always get it back,
Yeah.
though. I always get it back.
That's
My current girlfriend, that happened to her before she moved.
she doesn't
in
have
with me.
doors yet.
She she doesn't have doors yet. She did exactly what Matt did, like fucking clean the shit
Yeah.
out of her apartment, painted everything, like had it looking beautiful, and they still were like held out like $500 for some sort of.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get it. You never get it all back.
I know,
Right.
totally.
But especially if you've been there for how long was she there?
She was actually only there for like a year.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah,
'Cause we were in our
totally.
last place for like 5 years. and
Yeah.
it was like
I've been in my apartment for like 10 years. I'm not seeing a dime of my security. Like that is gone. That's fine.
Anyways,
Back to Starbucks petty bullshit.
But no, it is that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just they're just.
Also, I just want to say congrats on your ex for getting promoted to the CEO of Starbucks.
Yeah. The chain currently has about $3 billion in cash on its balance sheet. It says here, and is expected to generate another $3.5 billion in free cash next year. So
Wow.
they got a lot of money. They can.
They're doing fine.
They're doing fine.
Do you think this goes straight to the top? Like, is Howard Schultz? Is he just like, just this like
Sitting on
petty little baby, just kind
sitting
of
in a volcano.
yeah,
Just like
You know,
deciding
yeah.
what.
This is not me defending him by any means, but we
Sounds-
talked about this a couple weeks ago with De Niro.
Hey.
And like how at some point, the buck stops
Right,
at him, no
yeah,
pun intended.
totally.
But it's probably the people that he has hired to make him rich
Yeah.
that are actually putting in these, practices.
And I think Starbucks is also franchised, so like,
Right.
I wonder if some of this is like the franchise owners getting
Maybe.
together and like strategizing or something.
Was there a franchise union? And they go, we have to union bust our employees.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyways, Starbucks workers, keep on keeping on.
Keep it on. You're
And
working for.
You're doing the world's work, and Starbucks owners,
Yeah.
go fuck yourself. And also make a better coffee.
I mean, if this continues to explode, we could get a really good labor movement starting around or labor movement movie is what I was trying to say. Starting around Starbucks, like we used to get good labor movies back in the day.
a labor movie starring Starbucks making bucks for.
Well, I wanted to talk about another part of our labor movement, and this one is actually, I find this one to be really kind of this one feels, I don't know, nostalgic or old school, or I don't know what that would be, but America is on the verge of having a huge railroad strike. Which, if you're familiar at all with labor history, back in the 19th century. Late 19th century, early 20th century, man, railroad strikes were all the fucking time. And
Right.
it was just a constant amount of tension between, and they also, their lives were miserable and the conditions were miserable. So it was just constantly.
Right.
When was this? Did you say what year? What era?
Oh, man, the late, I mean, right after the Industrial Revolution,
Oh, okay.
like starting in I think the first big one, I think was in like 1877 or something like that.
So still like, cowboy times where there was like
Totally.
train robberies.
Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like, yeah, I mean, working trains was like fucking brutal. Brutal job.
Shoveling fucking coal.
Yeah, shoveling coal and but
Especially when your ex-girlfriend takes the handle to your shovel.
You still got. At least you got two workable things there still. A handle and a shovel. It's like you got a weapon and a little shovel.
Yeah. So as of right now, it looks like they have a tentative deal.
Who is they?
So the unions for the railroad workers, there's like 100-something thousand of them that were going to strike, which hasn't happened in like 30 years in this industry. But the thing is so. Well, let's just talk for a second about the conditions. Why apparently they are striking. Originally, it was said in the media that it wasn't because of any dispute over pay, but now a lot of the union reps are coming forward and saying like this is bullshit. This is like kind of like they're spinning it propaganda. But there is a major reason why, other than pay, which is an issue. Which is railroad engineers and conductors have to be working or on call 90% of their life.
Jeez.
And they can be summoned
Of their life.
of like their week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Of their okay.
So 90% of their week.
So not starting at 4 years old. That's what it's the way you phrased it. 90% of their life.
Yeah. That would be honest. It's like finding the next Dalai Lama.
No, yeah. They just make them crawl to like a train or something. They like pick what it is.
Yeah. Throw the railroad spike on the ground. See what he does. So when they're on call, they can be summoned to work on a 2 hours notice or less. And then from there, they may be away from home for days at a time. Here's the craziest shit. They have no sick days, paid or unpaid. And if they do take off for illness, they are disciplined with a points-based attendance system. And they get disciplined they are not allowed to.
This is fucking Hogwarts? What's happening?
Yeah, dude. They are not allowed to take off work for getting sick, going to a doctor's appointment, or a family funeral. What? Yeah.
They're in a union?
They are in a union.
I mean, this is what the union, like, this is part of.
Totally. Yeah.
Jesus. You can't get sick?
You can't get fucking sick. If you get sick and you call out, you get points. And once you reach a certain amount of points, you're fired.
Wow.
So you're literally punished for getting sick.
Are these like the drivers? What are we talking about?
These are the conductors and the engineers.
And that means the people who. What is that?
That's a great question.
Because I always thought conductor and engineer were the same thing.
I did as well.
Those hats. They got those hats.
It's the stripe hats
and the blowing the horn.
Yeah.
The whistle, I guess. Train whistle.
And then the being like,
Are
tickets.
you on it, Jake? Are you on?
No, but only just because this reminded me, and not to circle back to, once again, friend of the pod, Sousa on Discord. Last week when we talked all about bus drivers, they went on to talk about how specifically Greyhound is this exact way, where when you're a Greyhound driver, you can never be more than 45 minutes away from wherever your line is.
Yeah.
And you have to be on call pretty much 24/7 for the first 5 years of the job.
Oh my God.
And it's the same way where if you have a family emergency, if you're in the hospital and they call you and you don't make it to your bus, instant fired. That's why most drivers last like a few months and there's no longevity. If you get to the 5 years, then you get sort of a more cush thing. But to get there is literally sacrificing a half decade of your entire life. But it sounds like it's the same way though, where it's like there's no room for living.
These fucking rules.
There's no room for living outside
That's insane
of your.
Especially you don't want to put that much pressure. I don't want someone sick.
Right.
Driving a bus or a train or whatever a conductor does. Conducting an orchestra.
Right.
Yeah. And that's a part of it too, is what they're claiming as well, is like they're exhausted.
Right.
One guy was saying after working a 12-hour shift, he only got to sleep 5 hours before he had to he was on call and
How are there not just train accidents every day?
Yeah,
with
for
these
sure.
sleepless.
They're on the
sick-
tracks. I think the tracks help a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they still gotta
I know,
stop.
I'm joking.
And people are missing funerals because
Of course.
they're saying no, any time off has to be planned months in advance, and it's like, well, how do you know? You can't schedule.
Listen, can we schedule
funeral.
Grandma's funeral?
We got to do the funeral. We got to do a living wake, everybody. We got to. We have no choice.
Or you could just hire a hitman, a very ethical job.
Yeah. Yeah. A very ethical job indeed. So so Biden had this deal that he worked out, or at least that's what they're kind of painting it as, this big political victory. But the rank and file of the union are pissed. They struck a deal, and the only deal they struck was to really no longer get punished for
No demerit system.
No demerit system, but it's still not paid leave or
Right.
paid sick leave. It's still not, kind of like the normal dignities we should all fucking have as people. So who knows? They still have to vote on. It's similar to what we were just talking about with this other situation. Is
Farm workers.
there's a deal, but they
That's
haven't
proposed,
voted. That's
right, yeah.
proposed. They
Yeah,
haven't
yeah.
voted on it yet. But it sounds like the rank and file are pretty pissed. And if it doesn't go through, it could be catastrophic for our current state of
Right.
economic issues. With high inflation and everything, because it would shut down the supply chain in America for days, weeks, whatever, which, we already have that problem because we're still, dealing with COVID.
Right.
So this could potentially be a pretty big nightmare.
Run to the supermarkets, everyone. Run. Get your toilet paper, get your bread, and hunker down.
Yep. That's time. Yeah, it's time to go back to
Get your hand sanitizer.
Where were you? Where were you when the train stopped running?
Yeah.
Sounds like it's like a dystopian movie, but everything is kind of still the same.
Yeah,
I was in a podcast studio.
Honestly, it does
interesting.
sound the topic does sound like we're a podcast from the 1800s. It sounds like, did you hear about the railroad workers
And the
strike?
farm workers?
Yeah,
And
but it also just shows you how our infrastructure and technology feels like we live in this modern era, but there is still a core heartbeat of any country that's just we put a crap on a train, we send it across the country.
Yeah, totally.
We throw water on some seeds and we all get to eat. At the end of
Yeah.
the day, things are all kind of the
Nothing
same.
changes. There's this I don't know what
Or
this-
one might say the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Oh,
Matthew.
the more you know. Right?
That was and wasn't that the NBC
Yeah.
PSA thing?
I don't remember what I was going to say. I had some stupid comparison. That's insane. Those rules are. I don't even know how they got there in the first place. Of the
Right.
no sick
Yeah, I got to assume these are
old.
these are things that are constantly grandfathered in, and it's just
Yeah.
the
Totally.
constant excuse of that's the way the industry works.
It's
That comes with the
normalized,
territory,
right?
yeah.
It's normalized. There's not. I mean, we've talked about it in the past, but there's this lack of worker solidarity. So you have workers instead of having some sort of solidarity with each other, kind of blaming each other, calling each other lazy, making
Conductors hate the engineers. The
Yeah.
engineers hate the conductors.
but they're both the same job.
both the exact same job. Neither of them knows the difference.
But still, for some reason, segregated. And
Wait a minute,
yeah.
I got a theory. Isn't there a I don't know what you call it on a train, is a cockpit, a room, control room? Isn't there
Yeah.
one on both ends of the train? Maybe the conductor's on one and the engineer's on the other.
Oh shit!
So when the train is going in this direction, it's this guy. When it's going in that direction, it's the other
Yeah.
So
guy.
your job changes based on where you're headed?
Yeah.
But listen, all engineers go south and west. All conductors go north and east. That's just
One
the
in
way
the
this
front, one in
industry
the
works.
back.
And no time off.
Yeah. That's right.
Somewhere out there, there's someone like a train enthusiast listening, being like, "These idiots don't know
Yeah.
the difference."
The caboose
Yeah.
And they
becomes
did-
the engine,
of
and
all
the
of the
engine
things-
becomes
yeah.
the caboose.
All of the things, by the way, that we have Googled to find in the history of this program. This is the one thing that I'm just going
yeah, we
fine.
don't need to.
We're not
gonna
know.
Well,
Yeah.
Call in and correct us. Or email in or something. We dare you.
Some guy in his mid-50s is kicking his train set over right now, listening to this, just tearing his hair out.
Bobby.
Oh yeah,
Bobby Bacala. Right? Yeah.
From Sopranos. Yeah.
Killed in a train store.
Yeah.
Spoiler. That's great, guys.
Yeah.
That's great. I got a little surprise for us.
Oh yeah.
Employee of the month. Fuck yeah, that was awesome. Boy of the month. And just to, let you guys know, this is not going to be a monthly thing because it's been 6 weeks since our last one. But it's just what I'm fucking calling it.
I mean, it's employee of this month that we're currently in. Not every month has an employee of the month.
Sometimes
That's how it
you
works.
guys don't do anything, and no one gets it. I get it. But this month it's going to a woman who's passed away. So it's not funny that she's passed away, but it's funny that she's getting an award. Barbara Ehrenreich. You guys know her?
Barbara Ehrenreich. No, I'm not familiar.
She is. We'll do a deep dive on her one of these days, but I'll just give you the long and short of it. She is was a political activist and American author, and during the 80s and early 90s, she was a prominent figure in the Democratic Socialists of America. She was a widely read and award-winning columnist and essayist and the author of 21 books.
Wow.
The most famous one is Nickel and Dimes. You've probably heard of that book.
That I have heard of.
Where she went undercover, I guess. I don't know if she was undercover because no one really knew who she was, but she worked at several jobs because she didn't think that she wanted to see if she could get a living wage working at these at 4 specific jobs. And
right. Sort of the Morgan Spurlock of yesteryear.
Yes.
With his 30 days.
She took a job as a waitress, a housekeeper, and a Walmart associate, and she could not live off of those things she found.
Separately,
so,
not all at one time.
Not all at one time. Yeah. The average was like $7 an hour, I think. Wow. And she said it was impossible to pay for food and rent without working at least 2 such jobs. So that was a big, I think that was a lot of people were reading that book in the early 2000s.
So it sort of brought it to the public's attention more so than other things.
She also coined the phrase, her and her husband, professional managerial class.
Oh, we say that a lot on this program. And by we, I mean James.
James says it a lot. So that's who you're...
professional managerial class.
Yep. PMC.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's who our employee of the month is.
And,
love it.
Now, you mentioned earlier, I don't know if you want to get into it because I thought we would, like she was a little bit upset about how...
Yeah, I think it's become like the professional managerial class, PMC has turned into like a slur almost.
Like a derogatory term.
Yeah, and I think she was upset about that because her thought was that they have to work with... Well, not James, what's the opposite term?
Right.
Working class?
I think they're all a part of the employee class.
Yeah.
Right,
they needed to work together because they had the same problems of like no upward mobility.
Totally.
So she didn't think it should be used as a negative or pejorative.
I mean,
because
I think she's right.
It's just like it's a finger pointing tool.
Right.
Yes,
right.
And it's what they want us to fight.
Right.
They want us to fight. And it's the same thing like in the economic system of slavery. Like, they would give certain slaves like better living conditions and, to kind of manage and deal with other slaves. And so those other slaves would have resentment.
They would defend.
They would have resentment towards the slaves with kind of better living conditions. And I think that, with a lack of class solidarity, I think she's right. And it's easy for me too sometimes to get a little bit feel resentment. I've felt resentment towards that class before, but the truth of it is like it's all one and the same.
Yeah,
right. Like we all have to recognize that we're all being fucked over and robbed and exploited by the capitalist class.
Right.
Yeah, and she I have a quote from her here. In 2006, she founded United Professionals, an organization described as, quote, a nonprofit, nonpartisan membership organization for white-collar workers, regardless of profession or employment status. We reach out to all unemployed, underemployed, and anxiously employed workers, people who bought the American dream that education and credentials could lead to a secure middle-class life, but now find their lives disrupted by forces beyond their control. So she was a champion of both,
of
all workers,
of labor,
of labor in general. Yeah.
Well,
and she passed away at 81, so she had a long life.
Nice.
September 1st.
September 1st. So she is our employee of the month. Right.
Nice.
See you in 6 months for the next one.
I love Barbara now, and want to read her book. I really want to read that Nickel and Dimed.
This episode of Good Work is brought to you in part by The Chief, a New York City-based newspaper focused on municipal government, civil servants, and the important issues affecting New York State and federal employees. Visit thechiefleader.com, where you can subscribe for as little as $2.75 a month. Let's talk about it. Jake Lloyd Bacon here to tell you about my podcast, Elaborate, in which talking about it is exactly what we do. Listen, it's not super high concept. It's a talk show. I sit down with artists, actors, comics, and more, and I just try to connect. I try to explore the human condition, figure out why we are who we are, and how the hell we got here. It's a conversation. It's an interview. It's not exactly therapy, but it is often very therapeutic. So check it out. You might get something out of it. It's called Elaborate, and you can find it at elaboratepod.com or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Yeah, welcome back, workers. And we've got a couple other interesting little things that we want to talk about here.
Yeah.
And then we also have a voicemail.
We do have a voicemail.
Yeah.
If you want to leave a voicemail on the Good Work voicemail box, it's 929-256-5151. 929-256-5151. Do you want to hear what the hotline has in store for us?
Yeah.
Hello, Good Work Pod. My pseudonym is Mask Llama. Sadly, I don't have a good I quit story. I chickened out. Almost had one, but I chickened out. But I did want to talk. Something that bothers me about wage is, and I don't think a lot of people know this because I didn't until I got in the industry, that servers at restaurants don't even make minimum wage. Because since they can get paid on tips, it is acceptable to pay them under minimum wage. And that just bothers the heck out of me. And the fact that this is not common knowledge disturbs me even worse. Because it's when a lot of people say, oh, I don't tip because it's their job to do what they're doing, people don't know that it's your job to tip them. The restaurant, even the federal government has said, no, this is on you, patron of restaurant. You do have to pay these people, in addition to what you're paying for your meal. It just doesn't sit right with me. But have a good day, y'all. Bye.
All right, the Masked Llama.
Masked Llama. I am familiar.
Now,
with,
that's not a llama, right? That's a person.
Listen, we don't know. Masked Llama is
take the mask off.
Is a very elusive and enigmatic figure.
That was great. Thanks for calling in. Before we get to what he's talking about, I want to know, when he chickened out, does he mean he chickened out telling the story or quitting?
I think quitting. I think he
chickened out from quitting.
That's how I interpret it.
Okay. I was like, is it so rich?
Right.
Or is there a crime involved?
Yeah.
That
I was wondering the same
I
thing.
can't say it.
Yeah.
I can't say it.
I was calling to tell you
Stole
about
my boss's car.
Yeah.
Drove it off a cliff.
I broke into his house and took his refrigerator doors.
Yeah. You're obsessed with that. So I did know this because I come from a state where it's not, that can't happen in California.
No.
It's state by state.
Yep.
But in North Carolina, my sister was a server. This is, 20 years ago. And she got paid, I think, $2 an hour.
$2.83.
So you were a server as well, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I was a server
in Pennsylvania. Too. Yeah, it's two. Like most.
Were you here
in Florida? I was a server in 2005 to 8 or 9, like in that range. And I think my pay was $3.87 or some shit like that. Like that was my hourly wage. Rage?
Yeah, it should be.
That was a Freudian slip there.
It's so shitty. And it shouldn't be the patron's job. It should be the owner's job to pay them.
It's fucking stupid. Absolutely, it should not be so you have to be the consumer of the food,
the product,
and the employer,
and you have to pay this person for what they did. And it's the argument I've always heard too is so dumb to me, especially if you've been to another country. Like I was in Iceland last year, and their servers all make like around $35 an hour, just like that's their base.
Wow.
And one of the arguments I've heard in the past is like, well, then how, without tips, why would the servers care about customer service or
Right.
what? Like,
Right.
you wouldn't get good
the
service.
idea being
What
that
the
they
fuck?
have to earn it, therefore they're going to be good at their jobs.
Yeah.
That's what the job is.
Yeah.
Earning it.
That's
That's
what
what you're
it
doing.
is.
What do you mean?
If they have-
They'll get fired, you
Right.
dumb.
Yeah.
They'll
And
get it
when I was
demoted.
in Iceland, where you
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
tip, like the service was fine.
The same when I was in Italy. We went to Italy a few years ago, and it's weird. It is weird because you're so used to it here. You feel
Right.
like I do want to just leave my change,
Right.
Or at least for like coffees. There's
Right.
no place to put it.
Yeah.
and they
Well,
just.
it's just like they're not expecting it.
It's like what? No.
Why are you
yeah,
giving me more money?
They almost look annoyed
Yeah.
when you try to do
Yeah.
it. But it's great. That's how it should be.
That is how, yeah.
The
it
other
should be,
the other argument I heard too, or I hear a lot, is like, well, they actually make a ton of money.
Oh,
Servers make a ton of money.
Mm.
It's okay that they're only getting $2 an hour because the reality is they make so much in tips.
That's why so many servers have these huge houses.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Also, by the way, that's not to say that some service jobs. My ex in Florida. So at one point, my ex and I were both servers at two different places. She was a server at like this like really popular nighttime place. And she was also like a really attractive girl and would make a ton of money.
Right.
I worked the lunch shift at the Ruby Tuesdays.
Yeah.
Okay, before going to the Improv and doing comedy at night. And my lunch shift for the old white hairs and blue hairs who got the soup and salad combo for $3.99.
yeah.
I wasn't making great money
Yeah.
hourly at the end of the day.
I just want to say that we do love our senior citizen listeners.
Listen,
we
Jake
do.
was not trying to be insulting when he called you the blue hairs. and
I'm
white
generalizing.
He's
There were a
generalizing?
couple people.
But he finds. I think that was like you were like attracted to the blue hair. Like
well,
you were like,
listen,
the blue
I
hair.
watched a lot of Are You
He
Being
is-
Served growing
He is
up.
rock hard right now.
I watched a lot of Are You Being Served, a lot of British television, and I kind of had a thing for what was her name, Mrs. Peacock.
I don't
Mrs.
know that show.
Yeah.
You
but
know,
never-
no, Are You Being Served? Oh,
No.
listen, these two guys may have been traveling all over the different countries and experiencing life, but I
yeah.
watch British television. I'm
Yeah.
cultured.
Are you being served like a subpoena?
No, it was about a department. You know what? This show, we should do like a watch long episode and talk about how the labor of the show is. It's about a department store.
Uh-huh.
And on the one floor, there's like the woman who works at the makeup counter. There's like the gentleman who sells like the suits. There's like the maintenance guy, and it's just a sitcom, a workplace sitcom from like the 80s or 90s or early 90s, late 80s.
Got you.
Maybe even earlier than
Got
that. Maybe
you.
70s.
I've
I
never
don't know.
heard of it.
Yeah, it's a really popular British television
It
program.
sounds like it could be about a lot of things. Like it could
Right.
be about tennis,
It could be about fucking
Dance?
crews.
dance crews.
Yeah, that's
Yep,
right.
Yep, absolutely.
Anyways, yeah, Mass Llama, I do think this should be more common knowledge. I do feel like nowadays it is more.
Yeah.
Like, I think people are aware that servers make garbage hourly,
Yeah.
but I do
Yeah.
remember also being a little surprised when I first got the job.
I was surprised when I got to California and it wasn't the way it was
Right.
in North Carolina. When
Right,
I
you
was
can
like,
make-
oh wow, you can make minimum wage plus tips.
Yeah.
Right, yes.
and
It's
not-
way better in California.
Yeah, yeah.
for
I mean,
sure.
being a bartender in California is like it is a legitimately
yeah,
you could make a
Very
decent
fruitful,
living.
yeah.
yeah.
Well,
you
now,
can make-
here's my question is because it's by state,
Mhm.
is it all like state legislation that
I don't know.
allows restaurants or a specific type of establishment to not pay their employees minimum
It
wage?
was. It's gotta be.
I think the federal law is, unless it's gone up, I think the federal law is you have to pay at least $2.83 an hour.
At least.
yeah. At least
Right.
that's what it was like 15
Insulting.
years ago.
Oh, so I bet it's not gone up.
yeah, probably
So,
not.
yeah.
Which is insane.
And so from there, like states have, their legislation.
so they can override it.
They can override
Yeah.
Got
it,
it.
but they have to pay a minimum of
Also-
$2.83.
What's the difference between other jobs that you generally make tips on, but maybe aren't
Like
seen
what?
as prominent as serving? Like, for example, what if you are like a door
Masseuse?
guy
Yeah.
or a masseuse,
Yeah.
but like or like
taxi driver.
taxi driver, like the
Yeah.
sort of positions where like, oh, you also get tips. Can states be like, hey,
good
if you work
point.
at a hotel and you're a bellboy or whatever you call like a guy
Yeah,
that
the
puts the beds,
the argument falls apart.
Yeah.
right,
At that
exactly.
point. How come you don't tip your fucking pilot?
Yeah.
right.
You want him to do a good job, right? Your surgeon. Why don't you tip your surgeon?
Tip your surgeon.
It's ridiculous.
Hey,
keep the change. You're writing a check for
Yeah. Thanks for the new aorta Here's 100 for you.
Oh, like a heart surgeon?
Yeah. What'd you think I was?
I was just confused where he was going.
Like Dr. Dre, like a surgeon of beats.
Yeah. You just put a little 50 in his little pocket protector there.
Well, yeah. Mass Llama, thanks for calling. It's always nice hearing from you. Mass Llama is a longtime Dragon Wagon Radio listener and an active participant in the Discord.
Hell yeah.
And again, if you want to call the voicemail box with your I Quit story, even if you want to call back Mass Llama and tell us what you wish you would have done.
Yeah. Ooh,
Your
dream
dream.
I Quit stories too. And also, hey man, take the mask off. I want to see if you're a real llama.
Well, that's the question. Is it a llama masked as a person, or is it a person with a llama mask?
No. What?
Am I the
It's a llama with a mask on.
It's a llama, but what is the mask?
It's like a balaclava, or something like that, or like Zorro or something.
Actually, I have the proper answer. It's a luchador mask.
Oh,
Gotcha.
Is this llama a wrestler?
I don't. At least he wears a
Gotcha.
luchador mask. I'm
Gotcha.
assuming.
Got it. You get
Okay.
yeah. If you're not wrestling, you got a mask on. You get in trouble.
929-256-5151 was the number I was going to say there. If you want to call with all that stuff, that's
And
the
if,
number.
or goodworkpod@gmail.com if you just want to write it down.
Yeah. Anything that you want to talk about regarding labor or your own personal experience as a member of the employee class, hit us up.
The last thing we want to talk about this week, a number two, the contender for
Jake, it's a classy podcast, man. What are you doing? Yeah.
I want to talk about a number two.
I'm going to say maybe a.
All right, who's number two, Jake? Yeah, is this your own? Is this
the billionaire boss of Patagonia?
Yeah.
This was a story brought to our attention by listener Robin West Parker. Patagonia is the news story that was posted from BBC News. Speaking of British television, the billionaire boss of Patagonia gives fashion firm away to fight climate change.
Badass.
Listen, if it's if our employer of the month hadn't recently passed, maybe we
it was close.
It was close.
If he was dead,
if
he would have got it.
If you would have given your company away and then died,
Yeah.
it would have been.
First of all, I gotta say, I am kind of surprised. Maybe you guys aren't. I'm kind of surprised that Patagonia. I didn't realize that it was a $1 billion company.
Oh, dude, have you seen
Have
all
you
those?
seen the prices?
Yeah, have you seen the prices and all those rich white girls wear their little vests?
Oh,
Those,
yeah,
like
yeah.
ski bunny. Like it's a very bougie.
Yeah,
kind of-
it's like-
for sure.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
that makes sense.
it makes REI seem like Target.
yeah.
Ivan Shaunard. I don't know how to pronounce his last name is
Me neither.
Chouinard. Ivan Shaunard. Let's say Shaunard for the sake of the podcast. Is the billionaire founder of the outdoor fashion brand Patagonia. He said that any profit not reinvested in running the business would go to fighting climate change. The label has amassed a cult following due to sustainability moves like guaranteeing its clothes for life and offering reasonably priced repairs. So it is very expensive, but it is an instance where I think you get what you pay for. When it comes to
Oh
the
yeah,
cost.
it's good.
Yeah. It's famous for its advertisement titled "Don't Buy This Jacket," asking shoppers to consider the costs to the environment. Did you guys see that when that went around?
No.
Yeah, it was very much a pro-environmentalist sort of like, think about the jacket that you're going to buy at a Target that's going to last you a year, and where it's going to end up in a landfill, what happens to clothing,
right.
the things that's going to take its place, the amount of carbon that goes into the world just making the jacket.
Yeah.
So as a company who is
Disposable
known for its
fashion,
sort of
yeah.
outdoorsy wilderness exploration
Yeah.
sort of style, I do like that Patagonia is very much like, well, yeah, our shit's expensive because you're going to buy one jacket and you're going to have it for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Did what was that movie with Reese Witherspoon where she's walking the trail? It's based
Wild.
Wild. Didn't she have her boots?
I guarantee it. Yeah.
Weren't they? But like they didn't fit her, and she like sent them back and they sent their new ones on the trail.
That was
But
just
that
an
might
ad.
be REI.
It was just an ad. Oh, maybe it was REI.
Yeah. But I remember it was like that was the same kind of thing, like guaranteed. However much you wear these
Right.
shoes, if they
Right.
wear out or whatever, you could just trade them in for new ones.
Oh, that's crazy.
It's like buying brakes at AutoZone. This program brought to you in part by AutoZone.
Get in the zone.
AutoZone.
So the Patagonia's that is the most in sync this podcast has ever been. The brand's website now states, quote, "Earth is our only shareholder." Mr. Schounard has always said he never wanted to be a businessman. He was a rock climbing fanatic and started out making metal climbing spites for himself and his friends to wedge into rocks before moving on to clothing, and eventually creating a hugely successful sportswear brand with this cult following. But yeah, I mean, this is more billionaires should take note of this.
Yeah.
And it seems, I like the specification of like anything that's not reinvested in running the business. So they're still going to have advertising costs and they're still going to put some money back in. But I'm sure that's still a ton of money. Now, the question is where exactly is that money going?
To fight it.
I'm trying to figure out where, if it states in here where the money's going. If we could figure that out, I would be curious. Because
Wooden
what does that
straws.
Oh, no.
I think I have a question for you guys in a moment, but one thing I did want to point out, because I'm looking at a New York Times article here, and regarding it, and there's this really funny line here. Some business experts caution that without the Chouinard family having a financial stake in Patagonia, the company and the related entities could lose their focus. What makes capitalism so successful is that there's motivation to succeed, said Ted Clark, executive director of the Northeastern University Center for Family Business. If you take all the financial incentives away, the family will have essentially no more interest in it except a longing for the good old days.
Right.
It's the same argument that people say, if without religion, we would have no morals.
Yeah,
Right.
It's
totally.
like, no, we would have,
Totally.
like, people do want to do good.
Yeah.
They do want to, you know what I mean? Like, they don't need this weird end game to like make them want to succeed at something or be moral.
It's they simplify human beings into just being horses
Robots.
chasing carrots.
Yeah,
And thinking like, oh, that's all we are is just a bunch of horses that need a carrot to chase. And it's like, well, no, they've locked everything up and gate kept everything in a way that we have no choice but to be a horse chasing.
I mean, literally, this is like this. We accidentally found a theme of this whole episode because that's essentially what this whole episode's been about. All the stories have been about like, oh, the servers, you can't work, like, or
Totally,
or if
yeah.
like, hey, you want to keep your job on the railroad or the bus line.
Yep.
You got to get that carrot. You got to be close enough for the carrot. Like,
Yeah.
Theme.
Who thought about
got
it?
a theme.
We got a theme,
there is-
everybody.
I do want to
Get in the zone.
because
Autos.
So
we haven't gotten to it, the specifics, but the headline of this was he gives the firm away, not just he's taking profits. It says here that the firm was already donating 1% of its annual sales to grassroots activists. But in an open letter to customers, the apparently reluctant businessman said he wanted to do more. He said he initially considered just selling the company, Patagonia, selling it all and then donating all of the money to charity or taking the company public. But he said both options would have meant giving up control of the business and putting its values at risk, what you were just alluding to. So instead, the family has transferred all ownership to two different entities. The Patagonia Purpose Trust, which is led by the family. The PPT remains the company's controlling shareholder, but will only own 2% of its total stock.
Okay.
It will guide the philanthropy of Holdfast Collective, which is the U.S. charity dedicated to fighting environmental crisis, which now owns all of the non-voting stock, 98% of the company. So this collective, this U.S. charity, is now getting
98% of this
essentially,
billion-dollar company. That's
but
dope.
with no overhead because they have no voting. It's not like they're going to be like the family
Interesting.
is still going to run the company. They're still going to, make sure that it makes profit. They're going to do all. They're going to keep their marketing on brand. They're going to keep selling the products and keeping the standards. Except now the rewards go to somebody else.
Yeah.
This is fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, he seems, just reading a little bit about him, like, I guess he's always kind of been really uncomfortable with his wealth, and he doesn't like capitalism, and he's very much like it's interesting. Yeah,
I like him. I'm gonna start. I didn't know how cool he was. I'm gonna purchase Patagonian things if I can afford
Being
them.
afforded.
Yeah.
It is worth. Hey, you have it forever.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Might as well invest in.
I had one Patagonia jacket that was like a hand-me-down from somebody, and that shit did last a really long time. And I think the only reason I don't have it is because I moved to a hot weather state. I moved from like New York to Florida at one point, and I was like, well, I don't need this jacket.
You just
anymore.
kind of ripped
Yeah.
your clothes off as you drove.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you
yeah,
just
yeah.
threw them out the window.
Oh, I think as you know, they last really a long time, so they're environmentally friendly. I think you just throw them out
You
the
just throw
window.
away. Yeah.
It
As you're
turns
driving
into
down
a
the street.
tree in a couple months.
Some bear will wear it.
A bear will wear. Dude, I saw this brown bear with a beautiful Patagonia vest on.
Like
the
a
other
half
day.
zip?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Oh,
I was so
man.
jealous. My question
I
was
am currently writing bear wearing Patagonia, so I know what the episode artwork is for this week.
Is like, is this our best? I guess this is kind of like a really existentialist kind of question. But like, is this our best shot with climate change in general? Is to hope that at some point
Billionaires care.
other billionaires start to care for whatever reason.
So the number of billionaires is going up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Eventually, if that checks out, everyone will be a billionaire. So
Oh my
someone
God.
will have to care.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I think that was a Republican talking point. You just,
Yeah.
hey, we're all going to be billionaires eventually.
Yeah. That was my
I don't think we're gonna have. Hopefully, I think we're gonna have to do more than just rely on billionaires. That would be my guess.
totally, but also like they're so much more powerful.
How many?
they're so
I'm-
so fucking powerful.
I mean, this guy climbs rocks, but I'm stronger than Bill Gates.
Yeah. I don't know if you are.
No, you're right.
Bill
It
Gates
is weird though that you'd both get haircut at the same place
Yeah.
at Bill Gates. It's so weird that you go to Bill Gates to get your haircut.
So yeah, I mean, what percentage of billionaires are good? You got this guy. You got Warren Buffett.
I mean, one could argue Bill Gates that I just mentioned is kind of
I
giving
think
this
he's,
money away.
Seems like
I think his wife was the
no,
good one.
I don't
His
think
ex-wife
Bill
was the
Gates
good
is
one.
a good dude.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Melinda
Um,
Gates.
In fact, you know what's funny? You mentioned this. BBC.com doing a great job with their news article here because they answer this question. It says
Bill Gates.
other people who have donated their wealth,
Yes,
and it's got a little thing here. Last year, the boss of the Hut Group, which owns a range of online beauty and nutrition brands, donated $100 million to a charitable foundation after becoming a billionaire when the firm was listed.
100 million is not
No,
for a billionaire.
For a
See, I
billionaire.
think it's
it's a
like
drop in the bucket.
Bill
Yeah,
Gates. You
it's
know,
nothing.
when these guys give this like performative.
Yeah.
Sure. Oh, there's a lot
and
of
then-
that.
Yeah, and they make
Virtue
money
signaling,
off
as
of
they
this
call it,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah,
They make money off of it. And then also it's like, well, if you're donating all of this money, what would have happened to society if instead of all of you donating this money, you gave those profits that you made back to your workers, back to the labor? Would that elevate all of society in some way?
Right.
Yeah.
As opposed to, you just doling out little chunks of money here and there to things that you think are important.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
I think, yeah, there also the question is like, if we're talking about climate change specifically,
yeah.
then that is so different because the only way that that's ever going to, the needle's ever going to move there is if the company does what they can to ensure they have the smallest carbon footprint, and then they are offering alternative energy solutions. And at some point it's just going to be like, so what we need like, BP to be like, you know what? Let's try electricity. Never going to happen.
Right, totally. Yeah.
So
totally.
at the end of the day, yeah, all these companies can do whatever they can to
Yeah.
help and be as green. I mean, we live in California. We all work in the film and television industry, which is like one of the greenest industries. And there's all of these things where we try to make sure that, hey, this set's green. This set left a zero,
bring
carbon-
your own water bottle.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. But
yeah.
also like stuff like, transpo
Yeah,
and all
yeah.
these things where they like really try to ensure that,
They segue people around.
I mean, you laugh, but man, that Universal lot, the bikes and the Segways and the little scooters in
Yeah.
Universal lot, they're legit. They
Yeah.
don't mess
Carts.
around.
Totally.
But-
But you're right. It is like,
At some point, what can we do?
we can't do
The
anything.
government needs to do the
Yeah.
thing, unfortunately.
And that's the whole thing is like they send out these messages, these things of like recycle and like do all of this for the individual. And it's like, what about those fucking ships and the planes and the cruise
Also,
lines.
stop
and
making shit out of plastic. Don't make
Stop.
me
Right.
recycle it.
Yeah.
Make the company stop making this stuff.
100%.
Like that. It's all on us. And then also half the stuff you put in the recycling bin doesn't get recycled.
No.
Not at all.
They just throw it away anyway.
Yeah, it's a scam.
And-
it's all a
it's-
fucking
yeah.
It's performative.
It
It's
is
all
performative.
If you have never seen the Penn and Teller bullshit episode on recycling, it is outstanding. They literally
I
test
haven't.
people's, they will see how far people will go to feel like they are doing good,
Yeah.
even though the amount of work that you are doing is actually creating more problems for the environment. For example, the amount of trucks that have to tote around the endless recycling bins are creating more emissions
God.
damage than if those items were just thrown in a landfill somewhere.
Yeah.
Like
we are the dumbest apes.
we really are.
Capitalism is riddled with contradictions.
Yeah.
Like
Maybe
on
we
every
would
level.
kill ourselves if there wasn't religion. Maybe that is true. Maybe
Yeah.
that's fucking stupid. We're so stupid.
We are. I mean, it really is like it's just riddled with contradictions everywhere. Yeah, it's such a fucking nightmare.
Well, that seems like a good spot to end it. Thanks for listening, everybody. For all things Good Work, make sure you are going to goodworkpod.com. There you can find official merchandise. You can get yourself a nice mug. Bring your Good Work mug in the office when someone says, "What the hell is that?" You can be like, "It's Good Work." Obviously, listen to it, you jerk. You can find links to our personal social media accounts, as well as the link to the many times aforementioned Discord community, where you can join in the conversation yourself, directly chat with at least one of the three hosts of the program. I'll teach you guys. I'll teach you how to use it. It's
Yeah.
real easy.
I got on there. I was looking around.
Yeah,
I didn't
you're
know who
poking-
was talking to me.
I mean, everybody's kind of talking to everybody, unless they
but that's-
reply to you.
I don't want
Yeah.
to. Would that be fun if that were a real room where everyone was just talking? You
know,
just kind
yes,
of like wander
because-
from
do you wanna know
conversation
why?
to conversation.
Yes, because it's generally one conversation everybody's in, and people only talk one at a time.
Like on
gotcha.
walkie-talkies. Like everyone's got walkie-talkies.
From now on, the
You can't
Discord,
talk
you
with-
have to type over at the
Over.
end of your.
Oh.
That's
Over-
good. I'd get on
over-
board if we were doing
over and out.
walkie-talkie talk.
Oh, that would be fantastic. Anyways, for all of that and much more, make sure you're checking out goodworkpod.com.
Yep, and you can email us at goodworkpod@gmail.com or call the Good Work voicemail like the Mass Llama did at 929-256-5151. Just whatever you want to talk about. Your dream I quit story. Yeah,
We're here for you.
we're here for you.
Yeah, make sure you subscribe, rate, and review the show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. That would help us out a lot. And also consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/goodworkpod. Again, patreon.com/goodworkpod. And pretty soon we're gonna have some special little stuff on there for our listeners to be
Hear
able
all
to-
the things that James's ex-girlfriend stole from him.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be throwing up our Good Work time and a half. Unfortunately, we have to wait 10 years.
Yeah, 10 years from now. We're starting it now, but in 10 years it'll catch up. So it'll be
All
time
right.
and a half by then.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Good work, guys.
Good work.
It's Dragon Wagon.